Hey guys, welcome back. So today I brought home this Generac GP5500. This one was a Craigslist find. It was listed only at $200, but the listing didn't say much about it. It didn't even have a picture. So I did inquire, asking for more information, and wasn't given too much other than it's a good running machine and only needs basic maintenance done to it, including the oil and a fuel line replacement. So didn't sound too bad, and definitely the right price. I mean, these things usually sell for twice what he was asking at least. So I went to go pick it up, and once I got there, I could see that the condition was actually pretty good despite the dirt that was on it. Now, I was short on time. I did not have a chance to start it. I just pulled the engine over. It has compression, and I checked the tank. The tank is dry and free of rust. So I think we're in pretty good shape, but there were a couple red flags. I asked him about the fuel line that needed replacement, and he started pointing at this line that exits from the top of the tank, pointing down at the airbox that it was leaking. So that line actually is not the fuel line. The fuel line is over there. This here is just a vent. There's only fuel vapor there. So if it was leaking, it most likely was the carburetor that was flooding over. So I'm sure we have issues there. And to make matters worse, he also added that the engine would stall. So he had to make some adjustments to fix that. And he started pointing at the idle set screw. Basically, he drove the idle set screw all the way in to stop it from stalling. You can just see it there. So that is not a good thing. This generator does not idle. That screw should not have been used to fix that problem. So most likely driving it in all the way like he did is going to cause this engine to run fast when not under load. I mean, ideally it should be at about 61.5 hertz, and driving it in like that may be causing this engine to run quite faster than that, potentially in the 70 hertz range. So before doing anything, I'm going to get this outside. I've never tested that. I want to see how fast he was running it, and then we'll go from there. But before we can do that, we do need to check the oil. It actually looks pretty good. It's just a touch below full, and the oil color is pretty decent. And always check the governor arm linkage. Make sure it moves. That throttle on the carburetor can become stuck, and the resting position is full open throttle. So if it is stuck and you start it like that, it's going to make quick work of your engine. And in this case, we're good. So this thing should be safe to start, assuming the carburetor is capable. So let's give it a try. All right, pretty much ready to go. Got the space heater and kilowatt hooked up, as well as the fuel. I haven't turned it on yet. I am thinking that needle and seat aren't going to work too well, so don't want to flood it too soon. And also hooked up an inductive tachometer. The other end of this wire is wrapped around the spark plug wire, and that'll tell us the engine speed in RPM. So I'm thinking that this is actually going to run faster than I estimated earlier. So I'm going to be a little bit slow turning the choke off. That'll keep the engine speed under control as long as that choke is applied. And I also have the space heater. I can turn that on to slow things down as well. So let's give it a try. Not too bad. It's at about 64 hertz. 121.2 volts. All right, I'm going to slow it down a bit. Yeah, I don't think this is right. Yeah, that's good. It's hard to read, but it's 120.5. It's 61.4. Yeah, it seems like we might be down on power a bit. 58.8 hertz. It's a bit slow. All right, overall, not too bad. It started right up. The carb actually seems to be doing a halfway decent job. Now, the engine speed was not as fast as I thought. You know, with that idle set screw all the way in, we were at about 65 hertz. So back the idle set out, that brought the engine speed down to 60 hertz. So then I adjusted the governor itself and increased the spring tension to get the speed back up to 61.5 hertz. So overall, not too bad. But when loading it up to 3,000 watts, the engine speed dropped a bit more than I would have liked. So initially I was thinking maybe we had an engine power issue. So I manually opened that throttle a bit more and it had no problem getting back up to speed. So it's not an engine horsepower issue, it's just a governor sensitivity issue. So maybe we can adjust or reset the governor and that'll help. And a lot of times there's different holes you can put the governor spring on to change the sensitivity. In this case, I think there is a little bit of adjustment that can be done. So I'm going to get this back inside, probably get the tank off so we can see better what's going on, and try a few things and see if we can't get this governor to respond a bit better. All right, and there's an up-close look at the governor linkage external to the engine, and everything is exactly where it should be. I don't see any issues with it. The one adjustment that can be made is right here. This spring can be moved in, and by doing that, you're going to make the governor more responsive to a load, but only to a point. You move it in too far, the engine's going to start surging. So I have never seen this spring anywhere except where it is. So I'm not in a rush to move it, But I think what I do want to do is get that carburetor cleaned up. I know the person who sold it to me had issues with it, flooding, and also the engine stalling. So we'll start there, and while we're at it, we can also check the calibration of the governor to see if we need to do a reset. And assuming it doesn't, then we'll just clean up that carb, put it back on, and do another test. All right, so as far as testing the calibration of this governor, the way I do it is just to remove this governor rod from the carburetor. And then from there, you can see where the end of this rod lines up with respect to where the hole is, where this drops down into. So let's see if we can do this without removing the carb. And you can check this pretty easily with this disconnected. So I still have the spring on the governor arm, and that's holding it in full open throttle. That's low speed, that's high speed. So you just want to set the plate for the throttle in the same position, high speed, and just see if these line up. And they can be off a little bit, probably less than 1/8 of an inch, and you'll be fine. In this case, things line up perfectly, so we don't need to reset the governor. Things look good here. Yeah, it looks pretty good, actually. This is the pilot jet under here. And the main jet here. And that's pretty much it. There's not too much to this carb, so I'm going to run through everything with the wire. We'll soak it a bit in the ultrasonic and then bolt it back on the machine. This here is not a jet, but there are pickup holes here on the bottom to pick up the fuel, which sends it to the main jet. And there is a lot of debris here. Don't think it's enough to cause an issue, though. All right, while the carburetor's cooking away, I'm going to deal with this mess. Yeah, something like that. I still have a ways to go. This is actually taking a lot longer than I thought. I think there was a critter living on top of the stator. You know, fortunately, I don't think the damage is too bad. This here is just a kind of a protective piece that goes around the stator. It's not the stator itself. So I think we'll be fine. I'm just going to keep going on this and turn you back on in a second. We'll get that carb back together. Okay, all cleaned up. Not that it was that bad, so let's get it back together. And I'm just going to test the function of the needle and seat. When it's upside down like this, it should be closed. So when I blow through it, you should hear nothing. If you hear anything, it'll leak. And that's working just fine. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to check the valve clearance. It should be done every 200 hours. I'm sure it's never been done, so I'll do that. I'm also going to change the oil. I have no idea what kind of oil is in there, whether it's synthetic or mineral or straight weight or multi-grade. So around here, synthetic 10W30 is the way to go. So that's what I'm going to put in. All right, there's two ways to do this. You could find top dead center of the compression stroke, and you'll know that when the exhaust valve is closing and the piston is coming to the top. There is also a top dead center, but that's of the exhaust stroke. And if the piston's coming to the top and you see the exhaust closing and the intake opening, you're on the wrong stroke. You need to go around one more time to get the intake stroke. And I find the easiest is actually just to pull the engine over. And when one valve is all the way down, like the exhaust is now, you can check the intake. And it feels pretty good. I mean, I'll measure that up, but let's just check the exhaust. Yeah, the exhaust seems a bit excessive, so let's see what that's at. It's not that far off. Has the slightest bit of drag. Let's try a 10. Yeah, no, it's bigger than a 10. Let's try a 12. It's not a 12. All right, and that's a 14. The 14 actually feels a little bit too tight, so I'd say it's closer to 13 thousandths. And that's too much. It's going to lead to performance problems in the engine. If it gets to be too excessive, this push rod could fall out. And I think even before that happens, the compression release is going to stop working the way that it should, so it's going to be really hard to start. Anyway, we'll bring that down to 8, and then we'll check the intake. It feels pretty good. Just going to rotate the engine around and double check it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the intake's a little bit off. The 8 actually fits pretty well, but not the 6, so tighten that up just a bit. Yeah, we're good. All right, ready to give this thing another try. Now, I'm not expecting the governor droop issue to be solved by the carb cleaning. I think it is going to drop by about 3 hertz for a 3000 watt load. What I'm curious is if I apply another 2000 watts, is it going to drop another 2 hertz or is it going to stay at about the speed that it is? Because ideally, when we're close to the max load of this, we should be at around 58 hertz, if not better. So to that end, I have 4 space heaters ready to go. Now, this is a 6000 watt load. This is more than the generator is rated for. And most likely I'll blow the circuit breaker if I try this. So the 2 heaters on the end, they're on different legs. We'll turn those on to the max, 1500 watts each. And then the 2 in the middle, I'll put them on the medium setting, which is about 900 watts each. So altogether, I'll put about 4800 watts on this generator and see how the engine speed does. So let's start it up. We'll get the engine warmed up and then we'll put it to the test. All right, well, that surprised me. I never thought applying a heavier load would result in a better result, but that's what just happened. You know, really the only difference here was that I did bump the no load speed up a bit to about 62.1 hertz and clean that carburetor. So this time I applied a 4800 watt load and the generator held just fine at about 60 hertz, 120 volts. So this thing's doing exactly what it should. There's no issue here. The engine's running well, the power head's doing well. This is a good generator. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.